वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणार विंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा वल्लभ की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मई की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayamudiraye. Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu. Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavatyuttama Shloke. Bhagavatyuttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Text 23. Yavasam Jagdhe Anudinam Na Eva Dobdi Audhasam Vayaha Tasyam Evam Hi Dushtayam Dandaha Na Atra Na Shasyate Yavasam Jagdhyanudinam Naiva dogdhyodha sampayah Tasyamevam hi dushtayam Dando natra nashasyate Yavasam jagdhyanudinam Naiva dogdhyodha sampayah Tasyamevam hi dushtayam Dando natra nashasyate Yavasam jagdhyanudinam Naiva dogdhyodha sampayah Tasyamevam hi dushtayam Dando natra nashasyate Yavasam, green grass. Jagdhi, you eat. Anudinam, daily. Na, never. Eva, certainly. Dogdhi, you yield. Audhasam, in the milk bag. Payaha, milk. Tatsyam, when a cow. Evam, thus. He, certainly. Dushtayam, being offensive. Dandaha, punishment. Na, not. atra, here, na, shasyate, is advisable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bag so we can utilize your milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. Purport. A cow eats green grasses in the pasture and fills her milk bag with sufficient milk so that the cowherdsmen can milk her. Yajnas, sacrifices, are performed to produce sufficient clouds that will pour water over the earth. The word payaha can refer both to milk and to water. As one of the demigods, the earthly planet was taking her share in the yajnas. That is, she was eating green grass. But in return, she was not producing sufficient food grains. That is, she was not filling her milk bag. Prithu Maharaj was therefore justified in threatening to punish her for her offense. Please repeat the translation. Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bag so we can utilize your milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Prithu Maharaj is about to punish Mother Earth because despite her having received her share of the offerings in yajna or sacrifice, she was not supplying sufficient food grains to the people of the earth. As we were discussing yesterday, it is a two-way arrangement. There is a reciprocal relationship between the human beings and the demigods. Devan bhavayatanena bhavayantuva. So they will please each other. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Shreya paramavapsyatha. So by pleasing each other like this, then prosperity will reign on the earth. Meaning that the human beings will perform sacrifices to please the demigods. The demigods, being pleased by receiving the benefits of such sacrifices, will in turn supply all the natural necessities to humanity and to everyone living on the earth. So this is the nature of the relationship between the two. So the process of offering sacrifices to demigods is something that is necessary for those who do not surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if the devotees of the Lord want to exist happily, all they need to do is to just render sacrifice to the Supreme Lord Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada mentions, as is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Sankirtan Yajna is the best yajna, the sacrifice for this age. Because that pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead the most in this age. So therefore, for devotees of the Supreme Lord, there is no need to perform sacrifices separately to please the demigods. However, for those who cannot or do not take to the process of devotional service, at least they must do this, rather than whimsically just trying to exploit the resources of material nature. As we were discussing yesterday, there are three varieties of karma. One is that karma or that action which is performed whimsically, according to the whims of the mind, without any restrictions. The higher level is when we begin the human form of life actually, when we recognize that the necessities of nature upon which we are dependent for our very survival, what to speak of our prosperity, are actually being supplied by the demigods who are in charge of these things. They have been given that power by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the highest level of karma is that which is done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord in accordance with His instructions. So this is called Yajnartha Karma. Yajna means Vishnu or Krishna. Artha means for the sake of. Karma means activity. So the ideal situation for humanity is that we must all perform yajna for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And the best form of yajna is the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So in any case, because in general, this custom of sacrifices is there, the principle that we must sacrifice something for the pleasure of some higher authority, that principle is valid. So here, the demigods and the human beings have this kind of a reciprocal relationship. It is almost like a business contract. It is where the devotee, the worshippers of the demigods do something, and then the demigods reciprocate. Now, who worships the demigods and who worships the Supreme Lord? Generally, the devotees of the Lord are those who are either free from material desires or at least are aspiring to be free from material desires. However, the worshippers of the demigods are generally those whose hearts are filled with material desires. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Kamaistaistairitanyanaha prapatyantenya devata tam niyamamasthaya prakritya niyatah svaya. He says that those whose intelligence or knowledge has been stolen by strong material desires, worship the different demigods and accept the different processes and rules and regulations of such worship. Now, it is very rare to find worshippers of demigods who don't have material desires. There may be such instances, but it's very rare. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked by a devotee that what if someone goes and worships the demigods for no personal motive, no material motive. So Srila Prabhupada gave the example of a shop that sells liquor. Generally, when people go into a liquor shop, you can safely assume that he's going there to buy liquor. So, anyone who worships demigods, one can understand that that person is going to worship the demigods for some material benefit. There may be a rare instance of someone going into the liquor shop for some other reason. Let's say he's an electrical contractor and he's repairing the electric connections in the shop or something like that. But that's very rare. So similarly, worshippers of the demigods generally have material desires and they lack a higher spiritual understanding of life. So herein lies the difference between religion and spirituality. The two are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but rather true religion has as its essence spiritual understanding. The understanding that I am the eternal spirit soul and we must serve and love the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the highest level of karma which I spoke about just now is on the spiritual platform, or at least for those who are sincerely trying to be on the spiritual platform. The intermediate platform of worshipping the demigods is on the religious platform. And it is still materialistic, but at least there is some submission to higher authority according to scripture. And the lowest level is the animalistic platform, where there is no adherence to any rules or regulations. So in any case, at least the worshippers of the demigods are trying to enjoy life in the material world under some authority. So as they go on, they will find that their desires get fulfilled. Perhaps this is not a right thing to mention here, that desires will get fulfilled. Many times people approach different types of demigods because certain demigods fulfill desires quicker than others do. Those who are not aware of the worship of demigods are in that sense more fortunate. They come straight to the Supreme Lord if they connect with some devotees. They don't have to deal with a lot of baggage that goes with worshipping so many different types of demigods. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has created this whole elaborate system for people who want to enjoy life in this world, and also for those who want to transcend that and go to the spiritual world. He has created, first of all, the human beings as well as the demigods. Now, because the human beings who are here in this material world are here to want to be independent of Krishna, to enjoy separately from Krishna, so he has given them a facility to legitimately do that in an authorized way. It's not that the Lord wants the living entities to try to enjoy this world. But Srila Prabhupada gave the example, once again, let's talk about a liquor shop. Not here, and not in many countries of the world, but in some countries, it used to be the practice that liquor was restricted or prohibited. But certain people were allowed to purchase liquor, but there was a liquor permit required. So you had to approach certain officers of the government and you were given a permit to buy liquor up to a certain amount. And only with that liquor permit could you go and buy some liquor. Now, it is not the intention of the government that everyone should drink liquor. The general rule was that no one should drink liquor, but in certain cases that was permitted. So similarly, it is not the general intention of the Supreme Lord Krishna that everyone should engage in sense gratification. But because mostly there will be people who will want to do that, so very kindly he creates some facility. So he gives a permit. So the process or the system of worshipping demigods as given in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is something like a permit that is given to people to try to enjoy this world in a legitimate fashion. But that is not actually the intention of the Lord. This is a compromise. But actually he wants people to come to the third platform where we have a spiritual understanding and serve the Supreme Lord without any material motivation. This is pure religion. This is spirituality. So therefore, he is facilitating the desires, as the Upanishads say, of all the living entities from time immemorial. So what is the facility he has made? This facility of worshipping the demigods. So therefore he creates this whole system, the method of worship. He has even created the different demigods for that purpose. Who are the demigods? The demigods are living entities who are exceptionally pious, who have performed pious activities over many lifetimes, and who are also devotees of the Lord, but in many cases they are not pure devotees of the Lord. So they also have some material desire to lord it over this material world. They also want some sense of prestige, some power, some higher material enjoyment. So Krishna gives them the position of demigods. Just the other day, someone was asking questions about the Greek mythology and how they have their gods. And actually, if you examine it closely, you will see that they have equivalents in the Vedic nomenclature of demigods also. Because originally there was one Vedic culture all over the world. So this idea that there are demigods or gods with a small g, and then there is a capital G God who is the real God, this idea was there all over the world. But somehow down the ages, then the distinction kind of melted away. The philosophy was lost. So we will find remarkable similarities between the Greek gods or the Roman gods, perhaps even, I'm not sure about that, and the Vedic conception of the demigods. Their descriptions are similar, their activities and powers are similar. So these demigods are the ones who have been created. They have some material desires themselves. So Krishna engages these devotees who are his servants in his service, in the administration of the universe. Now Krishna does not need anybody's help to do anything. He is Swarat, supremely independent. And he can manage the affairs of the universe just by his one thought, by his one desire. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate Svabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Parasya Shakti, Para means the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord has innumerable energies who are ever at his beck and call. He is naturally endowed with such ability and such knowledge simply by his desire. His innumerable energies fulfill those desires. So the Supreme Lord doesn't need to have demigods in place in the universe, but he does so in order to facilitate the desires of those entities who want to serve him, who are pious, at the same time who have material desires. So then Krishna gives them that position. So Krishna has made the situation that there are certain personalities called demigods in the universe. He has created a facility for human beings who want to legitimately enjoy life by worship of the demigods. And very interestingly, he also gives faith to the worshippers of the demigods. So you see, faith is something very subtle, very important in life. We all have different kinds of faith. Even the atheist has faith. The atheist has faith that God does not exist. He has faith that is given to him by God. The existence of an atheist is evidence for the existence of God. Because in the face of so much evidence that is clearly visible for the evidence for the existence of a Supreme Lord, that nothing can happen by chance in this world. Nothing happens just by itself, especially when things are so beautiful and so full of splendor and power and precision and harmony. These things just cannot happen by chance. So the existence of God is something that is easy for anyone with some basic intelligence to see. But even if intelligent people are not able to see this, then one can understand that it is only because of the Supreme Lord clouding that simple vision. Because that entity desires to become an atheist, to deny the existence of God, therefore, God from within his heart gives him that forgetfulness. Of course, this is because the individual desires it. It is not that Krishna wants the living entity to forget him. But somehow or the other, because the living entity desires it, the Lord facilitates it. So that staunch faith, you may have seen many atheists who are very staunch in their convictions. So that staunchness of conviction is also coming from Krishna. Because that is the desire of the living entity. On the other hand, if someone wants to staunchly believe in the Supreme Lord, then the Lord very kindly facilitates that as well. So therefore, that all of us sitting in this room here have some degree of faith in varying levels of staunchness, it means that the Lord has been kind upon us and has given us that faith by which we accept that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he is called Krishna. Similarly, for those who want to worship the demigods, it is Krishna who gives them that faith. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayar chitumicchati tasya tasyachalam shraddham tam eva vidadham yaham. Krishna says that wherever and whenever I see people who want to worship the demigods, I, seated in their heart, give them the faith by which they can worship those demigods. Because you see, you cannot do any form of worship without faith. You cannot do anything without faith in this world. At all points in time, we have faith in something or someone explicitly or implicitly. You enter into an aircraft, you really have faith. We don't know a thing about how the aeroplane, flies, what the instrumentation in the aeroplane is all about. We do hear about aeroplane crashes every now and then and how planes disappear into thin air. And we've heard all these things, but the next time we enter into a plane, we're fairly confident that we will get to our destination. We have faith. At every step in life, when we sit in the car, we have faith in so many things. So every type of faith is granted to us by the Supreme Lord, seated within the heart according to our desires and according to our karma. So therefore, the worshippers of the demigods have material desires and they want the legitimate fulfillment of those material desires through the Vedic system. Therefore, Krishna, seated in their heart, gives them that faith, That is what Krishna is explaining here in this verse that I just quoted. And then it says, Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhanam Iyate Labhate Cha Tatah Kaman Mayeva Vihitanitan. So endowed with such faith, now the worshipper in earnest and with faith begins to worship those demigods. Labhate Cha Tatah Kaman, and then fulfills his or her desires. That worshipper obtains the results of that worship. But, Krishna says, Maya eva vihitan hitan. The demigod's ability to grant those benedictions, to fulfill the desires of their worshippers, that also comes from me. So this is a very instructive point. We see actually it is a Supreme Lord everywhere. The living entities are here in this material world because the Lord has provided them a facility to try to enjoy independent of Him. The material world has been created by Him. The demigods have been created by Him. The process of worship of the humans for the demigods is created by Him. The faith that the worshippers have for the demigods is given by Krishna. The power that the demigods have to fulfill the desires of the worshippers are also given by Krishna. It's all Krishna, Krishna everywhere. But still people don't see Krishna's hands. That is why we need to see the Bhagavad Gita and study and understand this. Then when we understand this, then we say, why should I get into all this? Why not directly worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? This is the culmination of religion. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then our religion transforms into spirituality. Otherwise, it just becomes a materialistic, ritualistic process wherein one wants to fulfill one's material desires. Spirituality is characterized by selflessness. Ordinary materialistic religion is characterized by selfishness. There is a difference here. So there is this reciprocal relationship between the two. The demigods are devotees, but they also have another hat. They're managers. Just like in a temple also, you may have devotees. You have devotees only, but sometimes they play the role of a manager. And sometimes playing the role of a manager, they have to take decisions, they have to do things. But in a personal capacity, they are devotees. So it depends. Now we as devotees of Krishna, how should we approach the demigods? Which hat do we see the demigod wearing? We see both. So when we see the hat of the manager of a universe, then we offer respects because this individual has been appointed to this very exalted administrative position in the universe by the grace of Krishna. He is personally appointed by Krishna to that post. So disrespect of that manager is disrespect of Krishna. So therefore we respect the demigods. But we do not consider the demigods to be supreme. We do not consider them to be independent of that Supreme Lord. On the other hand, what about the other hat of the demigods as devotees? Yes, then we worship them, but not independently. We respect them and worship them because they are devotees of the Lord. But still, we are not obliged to separately worship them. One who worships Krishna automatically gets the benefit of worshipping everything else and everyone else. Inasmuch as one who waters the root of the tree is no longer obliged to water the branches and the leaves and the fruits, etc. separately. Now the demigods are also dependent on Krishna to grant the benedictions, and the devotees or the worshippers of the demigods, they're also dependent on Krishna to get the faith to worship the demigods. If the human beings do not follow any superior authority and want to exploit the resources of nature for their own enjoyment, then they are punished. As we discussed yesterday, stena eva saha. They are considered thieves who steal from nature, from the material world, and simply exploit for their own selfish enjoyment. So that is sinful and that is thievery according to Bhagavad Gita. The demigods, on the other hand, having received the offerings of sacrifice, if they do not fulfill their part of the deal, if they do not supply whichever necessity of human existence that they are supposed to, then they are also liable to be punished by the Supreme Lord. And this is the position here for Mother Earth. As Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, Mother Earth is also a demigoddess. She has received the fruit of offerings, of sacrifice. But she is not doing her part of the job. She is not supplying food grains to humanity. And we will see later why she's not doing so. So it is the duty of a mother to look after the child, to feed the child. So if the mother does not feed the child, neglects the child, then the mother is liable to be punished. The state or the police or whatever, the authority of the, some responsible authority of the government will take over the child and put the child in a foster home or something like that. There are so many instances in the modern age where the mother, perhaps because of being mentally imbalanced or because she is habituated to taking intoxicants or something like that, she neglects her child. Or perhaps she's very violent on the child. Or she's very careless and negligent and she doesn't feed the child. There are many instances that come to light like this. We read about them in the news. So then the government steps in and takes away, and probably the mother is also punished or with some jail sentence or whatever it is. So similarly, Mother Earth is obliged to look after the citizens. But the citizens also have a duty to perform. It is when the citizens respect their mother and serve her that they are entitled to receive all the offerings from the earth. But when the living entities on earth do not want to do that, then they are deprived of the natural necessities of life. Here, Prithu Maharaj says that even though you have taken the form of a cow, and a cow is not punishable, or one should not be cruel to a cow, but you are still punishable because you have eaten grass and you are still not providing milk to your calves. In the purport, Prabhupada says, a cow eats green grass in the pasture and fills her milk bag with sufficient milk. So the first point that comes to mind here is, since the analogy of the cow has been brought in, that the cow has to eat green grass. This is not rocket science, but that's not is what is being practiced in most parts of the world, where cows are being fed all sorts of substances, chemicals, non-vegetarian items like fish meal, bone meal, just to increase the output of milk. So the modern day dairy industry tries to exploit to an extreme degree the cows on this planet. And the degree of exploitation is truly one of the great tragedies of our modern civilization. One can hardly call it a civilization because the cow is also considered a mother. There are 7 mothers according to Vedic culture. We have one's own biological mother. She is our mother. But she is not looked after these days. The lack of care of the elderly is one of the major problems of the modern day world. And therefore, in countries like Japan, they say that robotics and artificial intelligence is given so much priority for many reasons, including industrial reasons, but the primary motivation is that there is no one left to take care of the elderly. So therefore the robots have to do that. So they're developing robots who can look after elderly people in their homes, giving them their medicines, doing their laundry, making their beds, in emergency calling the doctor or something like that. So in this modern day age, hardly anyone is looking after their own elderly parents. So the elderly people are left to themselves, and so the state has to step in to do something that the individual should be doing. So in our modern civilization, the individuals are passing the buck. They are not doing what they should be doing and simply letting the state take responsibility, because when the elderly are left to themselves, the state has no option but to step in. So this forms an excessive burden financially and otherwise upon the state. And then the taxes are higher and everyone shares that burden. So we are not even looking after our biological mother. What to speak of the other mothers? Mother Earth, she's one of our mothers. We have the cow, who's another mother. The wife of the guru, the wife of the king, the wife of the brahmana. These are all mothers who are worthy of respect and protection and care. So Mother Cow today is being unfortunately exploited, as is Mother Earth, as is our biological mother. So in a civilization that doesn't look after mother, there will be problems. Now, in the scriptures it is said, the role of a mother is more important than that of a father. In various places in the scripture there are various injunctions, but some places it is said 10 times more important, some places some other figure. So even though the role of father and mother both is important, relatively the mother is considered more important. So we have all these motherly personalities, earth, cow, biological mother, and they must be taken care of and protected. And because that is not being done, we have now severe karmic reactions. So because we want to simply extract from these mothers whatever we need, and then when we no longer need them, we reject them. And that is the case actually with all 3 mothers. That is the tragedy of our times. Here, Prithu Maharaj is saying that because she is eating green grass, she should give milk. So mother who neglects her duty is also not doing the right thing. So Mother Earth here is being punished by Prithu Maharaj because she's eating green grass but not giving milk. She's accepting the offerings of sacrifice but is not giving food grains to the citizens. In the modern day dairy civilization, apart from feeding all sorts of chemicals and non-vegetarian substances, they also inject various types of hormones like oxytocin and so on, again to increase milk production. They impose so many other forms of what is nothing less than torture upon the cows. they force feed them with all kinds of other substances. And someone, a devotee yesterday showed me a picture of how nowadays they make a hole in the body of a cow, an actual hole. And they actually put their hands inside the stomach to see if the cow is being properly fed or not. It's an actual full round hole way into the body of the cow. And this is apparently a standard practice that is catching up in many parts of the dairy industry. So this is because we are only considering the cow as a machine to give us milk. We are not considering that the cow is like a mother, that the cow is very dear to Krishna, and that we must serve the cow and love her and protect her. And in the absence of such consciousness, when we develop a very exploitative mentality, then how can there be peace in a society? A society that exploits mother will also exploit everyone else. Otherwise, there is a huge contradiction. We exploit mother and we say we want to be nice to everybody else. But that is a contradiction. That can't happen. So there is a need for great awareness that all our mothers, the different types of mothers we have, should be cared for and protected. And there should be responsibility on the part of the mothers to see that they fulfill their particular roles. In the modern day and age, this is also a problem because mothers are working and the children are left at home or sent to daycare, and who knows what kind of arrangements happen in the daycare, what kind of sanskaras or what kind of impressions are given to the children in the daycare. Of course, there are financial pressures, understandably. But then, what are we doing? We are outsourcing the upkeep of our children. As it is, the children spend so much time in the school. They spend so much time outside with their friends and getting exposed to all sorts of other impressions. When are we then going to give them the actual devotional samskaras? So these are questions that modern society needs to think. Why is there a need for daycare in the first place? Because the mothers are not able to or not willing to look after their children properly. The society has been created or constructed now in such a way that both have to work to just manage the house, to pay the bills. So we have created a society in this way that induces, or rather almost forces, people to not do the respective duties properly. Somehow or the other, this kind of a difficult situation has been created. So there is need for us to reflect on these things in a sober way and see how all human beings actually can do the respective duties, whether as in our role as children, our role as mothers and fathers, our role as devotees, our role as human beings, as citizens, as brothers, sisters, whatever be the situation that we are in. The performance of our duties are equally important as our rights, as we were discussing yesterday. So some sober thoughts for reflection, and we'll stop here for some discussion. So if any of you have any questions or comments, please feel free to say so. Yes?
Maharaj, yesterday and today we talked about usual relationship between human beings and demigods.
Yes.
And we give an example of you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Yes.
So I tried 11 times yesterday scratching back of 11 devotees, but nobody scratched my back. So this relationship doesn't really exactly work, or how does it work?
See, the question is that the relationship between the demigods and human beings is a kind of a you scratch my back, I scratch your back relationship. And you tried that with other devotees. You scratch their back, but they didn't scratch your back. And that is the problem. If you approach your relationship with other people, especially devotees, like the way the worshippers of the demigods approach the demigods, then this would be the result. Because the relationship between the worshippers of the demigods and the demigods is a business relationship. It's based on mutual self-interest. It is based on what I can get out of it. The worshippers of the demigods do not generally have love for the demigods. They may have faith, but they have faith that these demigods will give us what we want. They are capable and willing to give what we want. But that spirit of selflessness and love that is required for loving relationships is absent generally. So if we utilize the same principle of you scratch my back, I scratch your back in our relationships in this world, then we will also meet with disappointment. Ashahi paramo dukkho, as the Bhagavatam says, that the more you expect in this world, the more you will be disappointed. The more you're attached to things happening in a certain way, the more you will suffer. So the principle should be detachment, but also coupled with love. That is the ideal standard of human dealings, if what is expected from us. So from us, the ideal standard is that we will give our love in our relationships to everybody, but we are detached because we cannot control other people. We do not know whether they will reciprocate or not. Generally, they will, but sometimes they may not. But the standard of saintly behavior is that the saintly person, the devotee, will selflessly give himself to others, not expecting things in return. The moment there is expectation, there is some degree of selfishness there, even though in this world it is natural to expect. And we are human beings, so therefore when we love people, we expect that they will reciprocate with that. But it may happen, it may not happen in some cases. So the formula for successful relationships is this: love in detachment. You give love, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't come back to you. It's not a question of us scratching our backs mutually. Then that's a relationship based on selfishness. And that is why relationships today are so short-lived. And that is why they crumble. Because the basis of relationships in the modern day world today is what I can get out of this relationship. Not so much as what I can give to it. We see that in all countries and all cultures, traditionally, relationships were much more stable in general. Of course, there are exceptions. And what is the reason for that? Because relationships were based on certain fundamental values, not purely on selfishness. But as the society has become more and more materialistic and more moved away from a godly way of life and from God consciousness, the individual has become more and more self-centered, selfish. The individual is thinking more about himself or herself and is not willing to sacrifice, not willing to take some difficulty, not willing to forgive. And therefore relationships break up very easily because there is hardly any level of tolerance. So even in the community of devotees, this should be our thing. We do what we should do as a devotee. If we cannot love the devotees, how can we love Krishna? So for those who want to love Krishna, it is very important that we learn to love the devotees. Not just in a sentimental sort of way, but in a genuine way, understanding that these are parts and parcels of Krishna. And we also understand that they may or may not reciprocate with us. But we do what we are expected to do, what will please Krishna. That is our standard of action. Right? So it's not a question of I scratch your back and you scratch my back. That formula will lead to misery. Yes? Okay, any other question? Yes.
You know how you were talking about how we have responsibilities? So when you talk about spiritual responsibilities, for example, like looking after the mothers, so Mother Earth or your own mother or the cow, but also we have the material responsibilities where you've got either work or your family or your children in some cases. So I guess it's more, how, I understand it's a matter of balance, maybe, but what would you mind sharing your thoughts on how to balance the two? Because it's not, like, I guess as devotees we have that intent to want to be able to serve, but how do you balance it? Because you only have 24 hours and you've got your own sadhana, you've got your duties.
Yes, so the question is, we have our material responsibilities in life, we have work, we have so many other things to do, and we also have these other responsibilities, yes, Mother Cow, Mother Earth, our own mother, and so on and so forth. So how does one balance this? Balance depends on priorities, on our understanding and philosophy of life. We will set balances differently. What is our priority? To what is it that we are giving more importance? Accordingly, we will make sure we do that. So that is the key point. Where is our priority? Then our balance will fall in place. No pain, no gain. There's always sacrifice. If we want something, we have to sacrifice something else. So therefore, in balancing out these things, we have to look at where our priorities are and what we are willing to sacrifice to do something. It may mean that you sacrifice some money and you bear some hardship, but you are able to fulfill another aspect of your responsibility because of that. Or if you say, well, I prefer the money, then you neglect that other part of the responsibility, and that could have its consequences in the future in some other way. So we've got the money, but something else somewhere else has now gone out of balance. So very carefully, each person has to look into his or her life situation and keep the right priorities and then balance it out intelligently. And Krishna will give us the intelligence to do that. And where in practical circumstances we have some challenge, we can always consult with senior devotees and say, well, this is the situation I'm facing. What is the right Krishna conscious way to strike a balance here? In that way we can proceed properly. Challenges will come at every moment, at every step in life. Yes? Yes? You'll have to be a little loud.
Can I tell the shloka for the 7 mothers?
Can I? Oh yes, please do. Yes. Wonderful. So, can you translate that and tell us the meaning of that? with a little help from a friend. Okay, wonderful. Yes.
Why worship of Guru is okay than worship of demigod?
Sarva Deva Mayo Guruhu. Your question is, of course, why is worship of Guru more important than the worship of the demigods? Because the Guru is a representative of Krishna, and you approach a Guru as a Vaishnava, as a devotee of the Lord. Whereas the worshippers of the demigods, as I mentioned in the lecture, approach the demigods for the fulfillment of material desires. But one is not expected to approach a Guru for fulfillment of material desires. One doesn't go to the Guru for that. One goes for spiritual purposes to the Guru. So therefore, worship of the Guru is an essential principle of devotional service. Because the Guru is the representative of Krishna. If we see the demigods as representatives of Krishna, as devotees, and we don't approach them for any material purpose, then yes, we can worship them, but not independently. But the issue arises that there are many demigods, large number of demigods. So such worship of demigods separately has not been recommended by our acharyas, even if you see them as devotees. Rather, we would just respect them, offer our obeisances to them, but when it comes to worship, we worship Krishna in his different forms, in different expansions, and the Guru being the representative of the Lord, we worship him as well. Any other questions? Yes.
Some people, before they, as soon as they wake up, and before they step on the land, like on the floor, they usually worship Mother Earth.
Yes.
So, is it something recommended to do, or how important is it?
Yes. Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam, we call her as the wife of the Supreme Lord. She is Vishnu Patni. So generally in Vedic culture, the system is that when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you should do is to remember Krishna. Right in your bed, where you are, just offer your obeisances right there and then. As soon as you, even before you open your eyes and you come to external consciousness, immediately remember Krishna. And then when your eyes open and some sense of consciousness comes in more, then you immediately bend down on your bed and offer obeisances to Krishna. Chant some verses, chant some prayers if you know some. If you don't know some, no problem. Chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and just remember Krishna. Remember your deities. Pray to them for their mercy. And then move on. But now, then you get off the bed, then you place your feet on the earth. Then, at that time, they chant a prayer that, O Mother Earth, O wife of Vishnu, Samudra Stanamandite, so your mountains, etc., like breasts on the Mother Earth, so you please forgive me, Kshamasvamam, that I am placing my feet on you. Because generally in civilized culture, you don't touch your feet to anyone. You know, if your feet touch somebody, you'll immediately touch your hand to that body and then touch it to your head. Especially to sacred paraphernalia, etc., we should be very careful we don't touch it with our feet. So similarly, we are touching Mother Earth with our feet. We have no option. We have to do that. But we still have this consciousness. We beg Mother Earth, please forgive us. We are placing our feet upon you. So it's a question of our consciousness. We do that. And then we go on with our work.
My mother does every day. She gets say Karagre was Lakshmi how important it is to do
Yeah, it's nice to do it. It's nice. If you can do. Remember Krishna first though. And then you can offer Mother Earth. Thank you. Because she is maintaining us. We are living because of the mercy of Mother Earth. She is providing us food. She is giving us the land on which we can subsist. The principle of gratitude is a very important element of civilized life. If we don't have gratitude, then how can we be called human beings, right? So as human beings, we are always grateful to everything that we receive from others. And Mother Earth is giving us so much. So we should be grateful to her as well. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful talk. Maharaj, we spoke about faith. We heard about faith in the discussion. And, through reasonable faith, we can come to understand that there is more to life than what meets the eye. That yes, it cannot just be happening by chance. And from that step forward, through spiritual knowledge, we can cultivate sublime faith. So my question is that, we also hear from the scripture that Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kari Sudhridam Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarvakara Krita Hoy. Now that's a very, very high definition of an element of faith. So how does one cultivate, this kind of sublime faith and not just some so-called materialistic faith that yes, agnostic.
Okay, so the question is that how does one cultivate the sublime faith that is expected of devotees, faith in Krishna? That staunch faith that simply by becoming a devotee of Krishna and serving him, worshipping him, loving him, everything else will be achieved. How does one attain that kind of faith? Yes? The principle is faith begets faith. If you want something, we must go to a place where that thing is available. If you want to buy some clothes, you have to go to a shop that sells clothes. So if you want faith, you have to go to a place where faith is available. In other words, the association of faithful devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Koi. So by associating with faithful devotees of the Lord, one will also automatically develop that faith. So association is the most important principle. In that association, then one gets into spiritual practices and one strengthens one's faith. And gradually this faith strengthens and more till it becomes very, very staunch and sublime. It's an ever growing thing. Faith should always keep growing. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Is it Krishna asking or telling me some kind? I got some message from the Lord to correct the class.
Just a useless servant asking. How do we understand Nanda Maharaj's consciousness in worshipping Lord Indra and Lord Nandila? Because we're talking about Vrindavan, Madhurya Ras, where they have a relationship with Krishna, where they don't regard him as God. And at that level, we are told about this pastime where Nanda Maharaj is worshipping the demigod, Lord Indra. How do we reconcile that consciousness?
Okay, so the question is, how do we understand that Nanda Maharaj was about to worship Indra and Krishna had to dissuade him, whereas Vrindavan is a place of the most exalted Krishna consciousness. And this seems like a contradiction that the Brajabasis, the topmost devotees of the Lord, are worshipping a demigod. So how does one reconcile this? That's the question. Now, Nanda Maharaj and the other residents of Vrindavan are eternal associates of Krishna. They have come from the spiritual world to accompany Krishna in the performance of his pastimes here in the material world. So they know nothing but Krishna. However, in the performance of their pastimes here in Vrindavan, they are ordinary cowherd folk and they're playing that pastime as human beings. And the beauty of Vrindavan is that nobody in Vrindavan accepts Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the understanding of the Godhood of Krishna that brings in a certain level of formality and awe and reverence in that devotion, which Krishna does not like. Krishna wants a complete display of intimacy and familiarity in the love of the devotees towards him. That is why Vrindavan love is the topmost love, because it is devoid of the sense of awe and reverence. It is imbued with a sense of deep intimacy for Krishna. So their love for Krishna was simply because Krishna was such a lovable cowherd boy. Nanda Maharaj loved Krishna because he was his son and so lovable. So as ordinary human beings, they are playing the role of innocent villagers who are dependent on nature, dependent on the rain. So Nanda Maharaj's logic was that, we are cowherd folk and our livelihood depends on the cows, and the cows depend on grass, and the growth of grass depends on rainfall, and rainfall is controlled by Indra, so we should worship Indra. So because they're playing the role of these ordinary villagers, they were acting like that. And this pastime was orchestrated by the Lord to show us that actually one doesn't need to worship any other demigod. One takes shelter of Krishna and that is sufficient. And even if we think that we were formerly worshipping the demigods, and now if we give up worship of the demigods and worship Krishna, then the demigods will be angry with us, as indeed Indra was with the Brajavasis. But through the Govardhan pastime, we understand that actually Krishna will protect his devotees in all circumstances. Generally, the demigods will also be happy when we become devotees of Krishna. But even if by chance they become unhappy, there is nothing to fear. So this is because they're playing the role of ordinary villagers. This is a leela, a pastime. Okay? Any other questions on this side? Yes.
We attack the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day.
Yes.
This is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This Krishna Krishna comes twice after Hare Krishna. Rama Rama comes twice after this Hare Rama. Is there any other meaning? We don't see any utterance of the Madhava, Radha. Radha Madhava actual is this deity. We don't see in this Mahamantra. Where this Radha and Krishna, Radha Madhava can be exhibited in this Mahamantra. We don't hear any Radha over here, but Rama is there.
So the question here is that in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we do not see Radharani, who is the eternal consort of Krishna. Actually, Radharani is there in the word Hare. Hare Krishna means Radha Krishna. That is the meaning of the word Hare. Krishna is called Hari. One of the names of Krishna is Hari because he takes away everything inauspicious from our heart. Sarva amangala hare iti hari. Because he takes away everything that is amangala, inauspicious from our lives, so he is called Hari. Har means to take away. So because he takes away all the bad things from our life, he is called Hari. Premadiyam Manahare. After taking away all the bad things, he also gives us love for himself. So he steals our mind. Har, the word har is to steal. So he steals our mind and gives us love for himself. So that's why his name is Hari. But she who steals away the mind of he who steals everybody's mind is Hara. That is Radha. Because Krishna steals everybody's mind and Radha steals Krishna's mind, Hari's mind, so she's called Hara. And when Hara is addressed, there's a form of address, then that Hara becomes Hare. Just like when those who worship Ganga, they say, Hey Gange. Gange is the form of addressing Ganga. Or Hey Narmade. You address Narmada as Narmade. Or Mata as Mate. Hey Mate. So Hara becomes, when you address her, she's O Hare. So O Srimati Radharani, O Krishna, please engage me eternally in your service. That is the meaning of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay? One final question. Yes.
Along with that, Hare with Krishna is Radha and Krishna. What about Hare with Rama?
Okay, the question is, that is for Hare and Krishna, but what about Hare and Rama? Well, Prabhupada explains that to say that the word Ram can mean Parashuram, it can mean Ayodhya Ram, it can mean Balaram, depending on one's consciousness. As followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and devotees of Krishna, for us the word Ram indicates Krishna, who is Radha Ramana Ram. Radha Ramana. Ram means one who gives pleasure, and Ram also indicates one who is enjoying. So he is the enjoyer with Srimati Radharani. So when we speak of Ram, then we indicate Krishna. For us, Ram means Krishna. Ram also means Balaram, by the way. He is referred to as Ram many times in the Bhagavatam. Okay, so for us, when we chant the Mahamantra, Krishna and Ram, both for us indicate Krishna. But if some worshipper, devotee of Lord Ram wants to consider Ram as Ayodhya Ram, that is also fine. Then Hare will become Sita. Sita Ram. Yes. Okay, so thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hare Krishna.
Jai.